Hello, welcome or welcome back. In today's video, we'll be setting up my 2025 reading journal. I'm filming this intro after, so as you can see, she is thick. I want to go in a bit of a different aesthetic direction this year than I've done previously. My previous journals have all been very light and bright, which I would consider my personal aesthetic. We have one more. This is my 4th year reading journaling, which is crazy, but I decided to really embrace my inner academic and set up a dark academia inspired 2025 reading journal, which was a fun challenge, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I did some new layouts this year that I'm really excited to share with you guys. Also, these spreads are just in their beginning stages. I'm sure they will look completely different after adding to them over the year. But now that that's all out of the way, let's get right to it. All right, starting with the first spread of any reading journal, the title page. Each year I approach my reading journal a bit differently, but I like to think that with each iteration we improve. I think in my first reading journal, all I wrote for this first spread was insert year's reading journal. So this is definitely a step up from that, but the title page is a pretty simple layout. I love it when I can incorporate multiple pages into one spread, so I thought this little peekaboo, or whatever you want to call it, door moment was fun. Moving on to the next two layouts, my reading goals and then a reading tracker, which I have never done before. The tracker, as it sounds, is just a means to physically track the number of books you read over the year by coloring in a little square until you hopefully reach your yearly reading goal. For me this year, that is 75 books. I mentioned this briefly in my last video, but I didn't want to do 100 books like I've done for the past couple of years now, because that usually makes me have to speed read come December, and I just don't want that pressure on myself for 2025, especially with it being my senior year in college. I have a lot on my plate, and I want to be able to dedicate the proper amount of time and thoughtfulness that the books I read deserve. As for my other reading goals, I want to annotate one book a month. That's going great. I want to reduce my physical TBR, and I actually mean that this year. 2025 is the year of saving. I always want to continue to diversify my reads, whether that's through exploring different authors or genres. And then I want to participate in a new readathon. Y'all know I love Summerween. It's up there with Christmas, okay? It is like a holiday for me. I mark it in the calendar, I clear my schedule, but I would love to explore what else there is out there in the community. So I would very much appreciate some readathon recs. This next spread is one of my favorites. I love how all the different scrapbook papers come together in the background. This is my anticipated releases spread to keep track of some novels that I'm excited about. I don't do this spread every year. Will I buy every book on here? No. Again, what is 2025? Say it with me. The year of saving. Very good. But I do like making the spread just to see what some of my favorite authors are up to. On the right, I have this butterfly terrarium, which will eventually have the titles I do end up buying and reading. You probably can't read my handwriting. Sorry about that. Cursive is that girl who is only understood by herself, or in other words, the writer. But you know, it fits the dark academia vibe. As for some notable novels, the next Finley Donovan is coming out March 4th. We got a new Freya Sampson expected May 27th. TGR's next release after a 3-year hiatus I am ecstatic for, coming out June 3rd. Catch me at Barnes, 8 a.m., knocking on their door. And then I'll have to add other books to this layout once they are announced. We have now reached the classic bookshelfy spread, and I have to give a shout out to Lovely Day because this layout is 100% inspired by her. I saw it in her reading journal and I was like, I have never seen such a cool bookshelf spread in my 21 years, almost 22 years of existence. I need to recreate that. What's so cool about this bookshelf is that in the middle, there's this window that you can flip. An absolute genius idea. Get Einstein on the phone. He needs to hear about this. Many people use the bookshelfy spread for different reasons. Like I've seen people track which medium they read their books, such as whether it was an audio, ebook, or physical book. But I like to use this spread to track the genres I read in chronological order. I'm a big advocate of reading outside your comfort zone and reading a wide variety of genres. So this spread just makes sure that I'm doing that I'm staying on track. This plastic, by the way, I just repurposed from some packaging I had. We love upcycling in this household. Reuse and recycle. Yay! Can't see that, that's a thumbs up. I am so obsessed with this one. Look how cool that is. Oh my god. Also, if the layouts look a bit different in the time lapse, that is because I have since updated them since initially setting them up. Next is another classic, my books read layout, which is where I note the ratings of all the novels I read. This year I wanted to organize by month using little Dutch doors. In total, there are 6 doors with each month occupying a side. You'll notice I use a mixture of different types of media throughout my novel, whether that's drawing, using craft paper, stickers. I like for my journal to have have a scrapbook vibe to it, and just to create art by bringing together different types of material. But really do whatever you like for your journal, of course. The heading for each month will have its own little theme going on. So far, I've only done January and February. Again, these spreads are just in their beginning stages. I plan to continue with the other months throughout the year and see what inspires me that month. Like January, season of snow. February had to be Valentine's, clearly. Really had to stretch the creative muscles for that one. For those wondering, the star stamps are from Notebook Therapy. Most of the stamps you see are from Notebook Therapy. Love them. These stickers are so funny. Book of the Month sent them to me in my box around Christmas a couple years ago, and they've just been sitting around, so I'm so glad I could finally incorporate them. We've got all the months here, ranging from January to December. This next spread, if you don't mind me saying, nailed the dark academia vibe, which is fitting since this will eventually keep track of the classics I read over the year. Hopefully. That might be a bit presumptuous of me. Wasn't I just talking about how busy I am? Yeah, so we'll see. As a recovering perfectionist, or someone who is a perfectionist, I'm not sure if I'm recovering, I'm trying, I can get hung up on imperfections while doing any type of art. But what's great about journaling, especially scrapbook type journaling, is that if you make a mistake or you just don't like something, you can cover it up. You'll probably notice I do that a lot. But those imperfections just add to the organic nature of it all. I have to remind myself of that sometimes. Like many of these elements I can just easily pull off and replace. It's also just a journal, like it's not that deep. I know you see my journal and you're like, wow, Van Gogh. But for some reason the museum curators think otherwise. Don't know why. Even though I'm not a super big audiobook person, I usually end up reading a handful throughout the year. So I like to have a layout where I can keep track of them. It's kind of funny, I always do some type of music theme layout for this spread. But you know, music and audiobooks, they're both audible things, art forms, you could say. And then on the right is a spread for the translated books I read. So I did a little travel-inspired layout, but still all in a dark academia vibe, of course. Moving on to the 20, not 25, the 20 books I want to read in 2025. Yeah, I know, typically people do the spread in accordance to the last two digits of the year. So like the 25 books you want to read in 2025 or the 24 you want to read in 2024. But 25 books, that's like a third of my reading goal, which more than likely I will surpass, but I am a mood reader through and through. And two, I historically never end up reading all the books I include in the spread. So 20 books seems a bit more feasible for me. This layout features novels that I want to read sometime throughout the year, though I'm not exactly sure when. This year, I just included books that I already own, and those are Get a Life, Chloe Brown, The Book Thief, Bunny, The Nightingale, Iron Flame, Love Theoretically, Final Offer, The Heiress, A Man Called Ove, The Mother-in-Law, Divine Rivals, Tom Lake, 28 Summers, We Were Never Here, People Who Meet on Vacation, Strange Sally Diamond, Akatar, When Life Gives You Lululemons, 9 Perfect Strangers, and Love in Other Woods. And then once I read one of the books on the spread, I can color it in like I've done with Tom Lake here, which coincidentally I just finished yesterday. It was alright, nothing to write home about. Following that spread is my series focus layout. This is one of those spreads where I didn't really have a plan for it going into it, so I just kind of made it up as I went along. But I really liked how this one turned out and how it has a bit more of a feminine vibe. As one would imply, these are series that I want to focus on throughout the year and that I need to read more than one book from to complete, meaning I didn't include any duologies or series where I only have one more book left to read. This spread only has so much space, so I had to be selective. Beside each series, we have little tracker boxes, so hopefully by the end of the year, more boxes will be filled in, indicating the progress I make over 2025. This next layout is a new one for me. This is my Once Upon a Time spread. I had to make sure that I created a lot of Dutch doors for this one because they will be showcasing the first sentence of every book I read over the year, hence Once Upon a Time. I think this layout will be so fun to look back on and compare and contrast how different novels start their story, because a lot depends on the first sentence. The author has to grab the audience attention and set the tone for the narrative. It's also just interesting to reread the first sentence after completing the novel with the knowledge of how everything will unfold. I'm hoping that I left enough pages blank. If not, I will have to get creative and figure out what to do. Moving on to my most meta spread, my mini TBR journal within my journal. Essentially, this mini book has all the titles from my physical TBR written inside, and then when I read a book off my TBR, I can cross it off. I also started last year including a little quote-unquote receipt at the end to separate the books I purchase over the year from the books I already own at the beginning of the year. It's so fun to have a mini book within a book spread. I definitely recommend including one no matter what you end up using it for. It doesn't need to keep track of your physical TBR, that's just what I did. You could use it to keep track of your star ratings, the series you read. That can really be said about any of the layouts I set up. Feel free to adapt and change them up to suit your needs. This is what my physical TBR currently looks like. And then at the end of the year, when I flip through it, most of it will probably be crossed off, which will be cool to see. Next is my layout for the Buzzword Reading Challenge hosted by Books and Lala. This year there are two challenges, the original and then the cover challenge. The original has the more traditional prompts you would expect, and then the cover has the more book cover focused prompts. As usual, each month has a different challenge to complete, and then on the right I left space to eventually write in the books I read to complete said challenges. What I love about monthly reading challenges like this is that as an indecisive person, they can be really helpful. Every book on my TBR I want to read at some point, and I bought thinking that I would enjoy them to some degree, but when the time comes to choose my next read, doesn't matter if I have to choose between 10 or 50 books. I become a toddler trying to decide between ice cream or cookie. And I read a lot of books, so this decision comes about quite frequently, which is why I am a mood reader. Usually I'll just pick up the book calling to me, but it's nice to have some reasoning behind choosing my next novel. I like to use this challenge for books that I already own, so if I don't have a novel that works with that month's prompt, then I'll just skip that month. But I did complete both the Januaries. Yay! So, going strong. Next is another reading challenge I learned about while scouring the internet for inspiration. Technically, I think it's called the Year of Goober Challenge, but I have renamed it for my journal as the Bouquet Challenge because that just makes more sense to me. And years later, when I look back on this, I would probably be like, what the heck is a goober? I'm still a bit unsure. I'll link the creator of this challenge down below, but I love the idea behind it. Basically, each month you have 2 prompts to complete, and when you complete a prompt, you get a metaphorical flower. Or in my journal here, I get to draw in the corresponding flower in my bouquet on the right. I don't know my botanicals. My knowledge goes as far as The Sims, so you bet I will be looking up each month's flowers. I've already done January's 2 prompts, so I have a carnation and a snowdrop. I haven't decided if I want to color the flowers in yet. I think I'm liking the black and white vibe. You don't have to tell me, this spread isn't very dark academia, but I wanted to use this flower scrapbook paper that I've owned for a while, and although the vibes may not exactly match, the arrangement of everything is still cohesive with the journal, so I think it still works. Quick tip here, if any of you are having trouble with pens bleeding through, just glue together 2 pages and voila, clean page. The next 2 spreads are reading journal or favorites, the A to Z challenge and a bookish bingo board. On the A to Z side, you're trying to read 26 books over the year with titles ranging from A to Z. It should be noted that I have yet to succeed, or seen anyone for that matter succeed in doing that. And then on the left, the bingo board has different prompts to complete, with the idea being that you're trying to get 5 in a row, but really most people just try to complete as many as they can. Usually a lot of these prompts I will complete throughout the year without really having to try, so this is not a very challenging layout per se, but I still think the idea is fun. I actually see a few I can go ahead and cross off, so I'll have to do that. All right, this next layout is a pretty simple one, but one I have not done in previous years. This is my Hall of Fame / 5-star reads spread, which will basically just display the best of the best books from 2025. The 5 stars, the Michael Phelps, the Simone Biles, the Usain Bolts of 2025. Can we just take a moment and appreciate how gorgeous the scrapbook paper is? It's so metallic, and I love the floral motif going on. It's definitely my favorite from this year. Next up, these 2 layouts took me so long to make. Following the bookshelfy spread, these 2 took the most time. Don't ask me how long. This journal took me weeks. It was weeks. I mean, I wasn't working on it every day, and up until recently, I hadn't had time to work on it. Anyway, we are looking at my monthly favorites and my 2025 Bookish Awards layout. If you can't tell, I have the months written on the spine of the miniature books, and then eventually the cover will be my favorite book from that month. Now for the Bookish Awards, I've got to say the awards are pretty arbitrary, so don't take them very seriously. Like, some make sense, such as having an award for the longest book I read, but then I also have an award for my most expensive novel. That doesn't deserve an award. This spread is really just a way to see different points of data that I personally find interesting. Mexican Gothic was my favorite from January. So great. And then I'll continue to update the spread throughout the year. And then the spread I won't be touching again until December. Finally, we have reached my last layout. In previous years, the spread has been my book bracket, where my monthly favorites battle it out until my favorite book of the year is decided. But this year, I'm doing something a little different. This is my book matrix spread. I know you're seeing Maytix in the time lapse. I fix it, don't worry. I did this spread at like 11 p.m. Give me some grace. The book matrix can be a bit confusing, so I'll try to explain it the best I can. But like the book bracket, the idea is that the spread is just another way to determine your favorite book of the year by pitting your monthly favorites against one another. So how this works is on the right, each monthly favorite will be assigned a letter, and then if we come over to the grid, the letters are written diagonally, and then they will go head to head. So A versus B, the winner will get written in this box. A versus C, the winner will get written in this box. B versus C, the winner will get written here, and so forth. At the end, this grid should mostly be filled in, and then you'll count up how many times each letter appears, write that down in this bottom row, and the letter that appears the most is the winner. Underneath the grid, I have a spot to display the first, second, and third place. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how I'll like this compared to the book bracket layout. Okay, let's do a final flip through and then gather for some final thoughts. Alright, so that is going to be it for my 2025 reading journal. I hope maybe you got some inspiration or just enjoyed watching me set up my journal because it was a lot of fun. If you do end up recreating any of these spreads, definitely let me know and tag me on Instagram because I would love to see that. That would make my day. Also, if you would like to see more reading journal content in the future, I can definitely do that. I try to, update you guys periodically throughout the year, whether that's through doing random spreads. I always do a Summerween spread, so you'll see this baby again. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It really does help me my channel out a lot. You can also comment, interact, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. I'd really appreciate it. I hope you all are having a fantastic day, a fantastic time reading journaling, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.